Hey, Planeswalkers, Mythras here. Hope you're doing well and staying safe. Today is one of my favorite days. We got another tier list coming your way. So we are doing the best of one tier list today. So stay tuned because we'll cover that list. It's going to feature about 40 decks. Then we're going to talk about key observations within the meta between this current release as well as the last one that we did and some of the trends. And then additionally, I'll follow up and talk at a high level at about 5 decks because we do got a lot of decks, as I mentioned. But before we do so, as always, I'd like to level set what a tier list is. Essentially, it's a stack ranking or a way for us to figure out in terms of a high or low or best of what has a better advantage in terms of not only one within the tier list, but two against everything else in the meta. Obviously, Magic's a little bit different because we have a culmination of combinations of decks that we can make and present and build and play with. But these particular decks that we cover are mainly top decks geared towards current meta in the current season. So I do a tier list that is 1, 2, and 3 in terms of leveling and try and make it in a way that's kind of your traditional bell curve. So we do a couple of decks in tier 1, we do a healthy load at tier 2, and then again for the tail we kind of have additional grouping in tier 3 as well. So that gives you an overview, but before we go ahead and jump into the tier list here, as always, because it is Thanksgiving Day's Eve here in the U.S., and I just want to say thank you because it is a time of reflection. I truly appreciate your support and this journey that we've been on together. I could just say, given where I started in terms of leaning in at the beginning of the year, we're at a much different place, and I'm very excited to see where we're going to go together because it's definitely something that I wasn't planning when I first started and undertook this journey. So really, truly, I just want to say thank you. Appreciate the support. With that said, please, as always, feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. Additionally, like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Twitch, stay up to date on content like this. Additionally, daily video releases that I do try and do. Also, you can stay in touch with my Mythic journey. As many of you may have seen, I hit it yesterday with a deck that we will be covering here in a minute. So pretty excited about that. And additionally, I do have the Untapped companion down below for you as well if you'd like to share your journey with me or share it with your friends. I think it's a great touch. And then lastly, down in the description, there are other ways to support the channel, like becoming a patron. So thank you to those of you that do that as well. All right, Planeswalkers, on to the tier list. I know you've been patiently waiting, so thank you. We are about 3 minutes in here, so let's go ahead and take a look. So here's what we got going on. I do have the top 5 here. Again, because we got so many decks, I'm going to present it in a slightly different format, and I put the top 5 here because we will circle back. So let's go ahead and see the full list. Many of the decks that you guys can see in my deck list here are those decks. But here is what we do have going on. I'm very, very excited about this. As I've said, I have spent a ton of time pulling this together. I should actually zoom in here, huh? Let's see if that works. Oop. Control, oops, plus it should be doing. There we go. For those of us that have terrible eyesight. Anyway, here's what we got going on. I got roughly 4 decks in tier 1. Tier 2 we got 21. In tier 3 we have about 17. I did do something special for you for Thanksgiving or early Turkey Day. I added Mono White Life Gain, and that is the deck that I hit Mythic with yesterday, so you guys can absolutely check that deck out. It is also, in my opinion, right now currently positioned as the best deck in the meta. It has the highest win rate for best of 1 across multiple sources that I've looked at. Additionally, it has just been prime. Personally, I will say I was very excited to see this come back. One, I was waiting for it to kind of ripen. I think as the meta's kind of spread out more, it's created a nice little lane for Mono White Life Gain to kind of pull back in. And it does pair well against the other higher decks, as well as does a decent job across the board in terms of the broad range. But with that said, here's what we got going on. Tier 1, we have Mono White Life Gain, we have Mono Red Aggro, we have Gruul Adventures, we do have Dimir Rogues, and I'll talk about this in a little bit, but I did have a slight challenge, I'll say, in terms of actually putting this at Tier 1. Dimir Mill is also Tier 2 here at the top, but again, another one that I was slightly challenged with, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Next, we have Mono Green Food. In Tier 2, we have Esper, Yorion, Doom. We have Mono White Auras. We have Boros-Yore Cycling, Mono White Aggro, Mono Black Enchantments, Boros Knights, Temur Ramp, Orzhov Yorion, Doom, Selesnya Yorion, Mono Green Stompy, Rakdos Midrange, Mardu, Yorion, Doom, Mono Black Control, Mono Red Control, Temur Obosh Adventures, Selesnya Adventures, Naya Winota, Selesnya Counters, Orzhov Auras, and then last, and I will clean that up, last but not least, we got our Tier 3. So we have Golgari Adventures, we have Sultai Midrange, we have Azorius Yorion Blink, we also have Abzan Ultimatum, Mono Blue Control, Simic Mutate, Dimir Control, Naya Ramp, Grixis Control, Izzet Tempo, Boros Warriors, Rakdos Aggro, Abzan Mutate, Jeskai Yorion Control, Orzhov Aggro, Orzhov Party, and Jeskai Spells rounding out the list. So that is the list, my friends. Again, very potent. What I will say that's different about the best of 1 versus the best of 3, it can be harder to procure these lists and tend to be a little bit more data focused in terms of win rates, because we don't have tournaments or events, at least to my knowledge, that are competitive, that are best of 1 only. The best thing that you can get an idea of are some of the arena events that they do have, in terms of you got to get 7 wins, or the arena opens kind of a thing, where we do get a slight behind the curtains look at which decks run very well outside of kind of the win rates. But with that said, again, taking into account the broader range of the meta, taking into all the stuff that I read, taking in the win rates, again, heavy focus on that. I won't lie. This is your list. So I hope you're excited. Maybe some surprises, maybe not. But if you have questions or comments, let me know down below. Always happy to help and provide additional comments or feedback there through that. Or feel free to jump into the Discord as well. That is available for you down below in the deck list, or sorry, down below in the description. And then additionally, the tier list here, all the links to the decks, all that is also down below in the description, so you have access to it right away, Planeswalkers. So let's go back here and talk about some of these other pieces, because I do think it's important. So let me just pull up some of my additional commentary here so we can go through that as well, because it is pretty important. But as I was mentioning, the tier list is available for you down below. Discord channel server down below if you want to hop in there. And also links to the videos, deeper dive explanations, all there for you at your fingertips. Just follow the links, and the deck lists are there as well in one spot. And then lastly, I do a big piece on my website as well, so you can see all the deck lists in one spot and some of the additional commentary for those of you that appreciate that format as well, or medium. So what do we have? I'm going to move into the observations and some of the trend stuff, because this is really important, particularly for those of us. I think Magic's really a study. It's point in time, but also over history. And I've created these pieces to kind of help us track a lot of these things, maintain continuity. And then also what I do like is, as we kind of circle back to formats, which is really great against remastered versions like Kaladesh. Now, hopefully one day you can pull this stuff up and take a look and see what was good and those kinds of things. So first off, what do we have going on? Well, first, the biggest thing that I can say is the top end remains intact. So what this means is most of the decks that were already up there in Best of 1 are still up there, but we do have one newcomer. And like I mentioned, I did struggle on the Rogues deck. I did slightly struggle on Dimir Mill. I do think Dimir Mill got better, but I was hesitant to put it at the top of the tier 2 list. Dimir Rogues has certainly lost some of its gumption in terms of its win rate. It's not as good as it was previously. It's definitely fallen. It doesn't perform as well across the better meta. And actually, as you drop out of Mythic, as you drop out of Platinum, Rogues actually gets worse. So I don't know if that's many of you just playing all sorts of broader stuff, but that's probably my guess, versus some of the more focused tunnel vision that kind of happens, I'll say, definitely at the mythic level. So that's one thing. The next thing is that newcomer in this space that has really shot up is the mono white life gain deck. Hats off to Croakies. I believe it is my understanding that Croakies was the one that really kind of fine-tuned this list. I'm a fan of the one-offs, have been, always been. I think it's great to have answers, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. I hit Mythic with this deck. I primarily pilot it through Best of 1, and then obviously many of you that do follow my content, I actually hit it with Best of 3, which is pretty great, because I did make that sideboard for that particular deck, and all the things that worked out well, and we stopped a Gruul Adventures, so there's nothing wrong with that ever. With that said, we'll go in and talk about the next piece here, but mono white life gain is definitely a big one. As I mentioned, a top player contender right now, so keep that in mind as you are playing. Next, a big piece here is really the fate foretold. So this is my line in terms of Yorion. So as I like to say, Yorion's doom has been sealed, but the reality is the Yorion decks were a lot stronger when I did this a month ago. We've seen a lot of things change, a lot of things fall into place. Some really big changes in the tier 2 spot, some in the tier 1, but not as much. Like I said, the top 5 primarily stayed intact. But what I will say within the Yorion kind of companion and deck archetype, we're really beginning to see the Doom Yorion ones kind of, especially in Best of 1, separate themselves from the other ones. And you guys can see that in the list. Things like Esper, things like Orzhov, even the Mardu Doom stuff is really beginning to kind of get that foothold. It performs well and holds off decently in the early game, but then once you kind of hit that critical mass at turn 4 or 5, it's pretty well set in terms of managing the board. So that's the big key, is if these tier 1 decks can get under and move quickly. If they can't, then the game moves towards that late game fairly well sealed from a Fate with Doom perspective. Then next, the one piece that I do want to call it here that I've rather enjoyed, and I think this is really important in terms of this pop culture, which I'm a big fan of always, B, being a chess player, you guys might know where I'm going, and C, being a fan of the current Queen's Gambit. I just want to say, can we castle? So I say that because castling is a move in chess and the ability to essentially unlock your rook. And why it applies to Magic is for a couple of reasons. One, particularly in Best of 1, we know that things get dominated by aggro type decks, and generally monocolored type decks, and you can see that here with the top 5, and then you can also see that more so in the tier list with a lot of other things like mono green food, other aggro decks in there like Boros Knights, lots of things in consideration. Now I say can we castle because if there is a happy medium in terms of the mid-range and some of the late game decks, and we talked about Doom a little bit, to essentially unlock their late game potential early on in the game by holding up the board, they're actually going to perform well. So we just haven't seen, in my opinion, an effective trade battle or a one for many kind of battle. There certainly are the cards there, but the focus, in my opinion, hasn't been too much on that in the particular, again, Best of 1 scene. And I don't know if that's just due to the fact that a lot of players play best of 3 at the Mythic, particularly top 1500, or again, is that just kind of the focus where we generally know that the path is trying to get to Mythic really quick by playing fast best of 1 aggro type decks. Who knows, but just wanted to call that out again because I enjoy chess, I enjoy the Queen's Gambit, and I thought, maybe we can castle. So anyway, last fun piece here for you, actually two, and more so the critical one here is what I call go wide or go home. So I get a lot of feedback from players, and in particular the mono white life gain deck that I did yesterday. I get a lot of questions around why the one-off, it's not as efficient as a 4 of and those kinds of things. Here's what I would tell you from heavily played Magic for a long time, and particularly, like I said, leaning in really heavy this year. In our kind of trends analysis that we've done in these timepieces, playing all these different decks, and then also with the current meta. So current meta makes a difference. We are in a healthy meta, and what that means is there's a large influx of a variety of decks, hence 40 decks. I tell you every day I run into a new deck, I'm like, that's sweet, that's cool, let's do it. Shoot it to me, let's feature it, kind of a thing. For those of you that like doing that, I appreciate it. Please feel free to shoot me decks. Always happy to do that. I do kind of have a system for trying to prioritize. But anyway, I'll digress from that and back to the point. Generally speaking, you're going to run 4 ofs, and in the higher competitive stuff, it tends to be more linear in terms of the deck. In best of 1, particularly in my opinion, you want to play to a broader range of things, because either you're either going to accept the fact that you have an option, or you're going to accept the fate that you do not. And the reality is, when you don't keep it open for an option, you're essentially flipping a coin and hoping that your deck pairs well. And in order to do, in my opinion, again, in order to perform at a level at which maybe makes a difference in terms of notching up a couple percentage points in win rates, and playing against a broader of a deck component and field, you may actually progress faster. So I just like to challenge you to try it. But the reality here again is that having this ability to have an option opens up the board, allows us to play more, and I will certainly say the mono white life gain is a good place to start, because it effectively has a lot of options near, mid, and late game, and can play very, very well. And then if you play best of 3, even the sideboard helps you with a lot of those things. Now, the go home piece isn't the fact of you have to play wide and you have to have options, but it's more so what I call the decision, like I mentioned, to do the 4 ofs. Drive a linear deck, drive a more consistent deck. I'll say more consistent, because that is a difference. And I hear many of you say, well, I got a 1 in 60 draw. Well, if you run a 4 of and you don't have that draw, you don't have that choice. And oddly enough, despite the numbers, I will say you do end up paying it once in a while, and it will make the difference in the match. But again, it's not meant to be a negative. It's not meant to say you have to play the same way that I do, my preference, those kinds of things. Just, I'm saying try it, but then also recognize that when you do make that decision, you're locking yourself in on a linear deck, or you're locking yourself in with less options. And it could be the flip of the coin, but the reality is, in certain fields, it is more effective. It's not as effective, in my opinion, given the current meta, and given the current health. And that's a good thing, my friends. It's a good thing. So just wanted to call that out, because I think it's important. I know I get a lot of questions on the go wide stuff, so I figured I'd just try and spend a minute there for you on it. And then last but not least, this is still, as I mentioned, a very healthy meta. It's a brewer's dream. It's a competitive brewer's dream. You can absolutely go out there, make some cool decks, do a lot of stuff. You guys have seen me do all these. You've seen me do the 40 plus. We do a different one every day. and they're all competitive. They all run well. Now, granted, that's why we have a tier list. Some still are better than others, right? But the reality is, you guys have seen me lose to, and jokingly, I don't even want to say jank because, that's how it is. And obviously, I beat Frank Karsten, if you guys watched that, with the Rakdos aggro deck. That was Platinum to Mythic. So, and I did that in a best of 3 match. So you guys can absolutely find a hole. You can find an opportunity. There's a lot of used cards that I've already talked about that you guys can find and tune and play with and deviate. And maybe there's still an opportunity, like I said, with the castling thing. Definitely an opportunity to still maintain and be competitive. Lots of things there for you. So Planeswalkers, live in the now, enjoy the moment. Kaladim's coming. It's going to change things. If there's anything in life that is guaranteed minus death and taxes, it is change. So that is inevitable. Now, with that said, that concludes kind of the different observations and trends and key points. Again, we talked about what a tier list is. We talked about the tier list. In terms of observations, the high end remains intact. We got a nice newcomer here with mono white. Yorion's fate has been foretold with Doom. Can we castle? Can we go wide or go home? And then again, healthy meta and Brewer's Dream. So with that said, before I move into kind of a high level here to cover some of the top decks, at least the 5 here, please, again, feel free. Down below is the deck list. Down below are the videos, detailed information, links, all that stuff for you to go and take a look at your fingertips, get some better ideas, how to play. Feel free to ask, again, like I said, down below. Feel free to hop in the Discord server. And then, as always, Planeswalkers, thank you. I really appreciate your support. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. Like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook and follow me on Twitter and Twitch to stay up to date on daily videos. And then again, in the description, other ways to support the channel. Always appreciate that, and I'm very thankful. So, in conclusion, we're going to go through and look at the 5 decks here at a high level, because I know a lot of you like an additional quick look. So we'll start with mono white, life gain here. This particular deck is definitely my flavor right now. As I talked about, I'm running over 70% win rates. I hit Mythic with it. Very, very powerful in the best of 1 space. And in particular, it's mono white because it's only white, and life gain because everything revolves around lifelink mechanic and the ability to really add on. And then also has a lot of great one-offs, like I said. So this is definitely a go-wide deck. Not all decks are like that, but this one in particular does well. You can certainly find the answers, and you can certainly, within the pattern, have a nice, consistent play as well. Next, we got mono red aggro. So this particular deck here is a optimized list for best of 1. I usually do both best of 1 and best of 3. I just wanted to show this one because the list that I did do for best of 3 was a while ago. So this one will give you an idea. And if you go check out my article, I'll have the more updated list there for you. But with that said, the ones down below will certainly teach you how to play this, certainly teach you and give you a good idea of the deck list as well. But the key here again, mono red, it's a quick deck. You can definitely seal your opponent's fate turn 4 with this deck, sometimes turn 3 maybe. If you're really moving on it, you can still do it. Very important. Again, one of my favorite decks as well. Nice to see this one continue to carry forward and perform. Next, in Tier 1, we got Gruul Adventures. So again, this is an updated list. Primarily here, we got a lot of the key components. Gruul is the red and green or mountain and forest clan from Ravnica. This one leverages our favorite adventure mechanic where we can keep drawing We also have the Great Henge available. We got some landfall things that are going on here. It is a very, very powerful deck, very, very consistent deck as well. Then in tier 1, and rounding out tier 1, we have our Dimir Rogues deck. This deck in particular, as well as the Mill deck, look fairly similar, but yet they're different. So we need to keep that in mind. The newer versions of Rogues tends to run Rune Crab. It does focus a little bit more on Mill. It has a little bit more direct kill spells, obviously, because you're going to tend to run into more creature-based decks in Best of 1, so it's an important play. We have great modal lands, and we have Lull Mage's Domination. So this is a very, very fun card, very, very often played now. This is a more updated version. The version that I did has Slither Wisp. It's also got a little bit more flash going on, and other ways to smooth out your hand and deal damage to your opponents, and a lot of things like that. So again, later ones on the website, feel free to check it out. And then the other version is down below. Last but not least, rounding out the top 5, like I talked about, we have a Dimir Mill deck. So again, being very powerful, you'll see that this one looks fairly similar, is a little bit different, not a ton of nuances, but very, very heavy focused on the mill. We have a few other things like Seagate's Restoration here as a one-off, but again, looks pretty similar. There are some other flavors out there that you could run, but these two are just very, very small one-offs in my opinion. All right, Planeswalkers, that is the quick high-level pass on the tier list. I'll pull the tier list back here so you can see it. So again, this is the list for you. Very, very excited about it. This stuff is awesome. I love pulling these things together for you. And I hope you enjoy them too. Love to hear your feedback down below. Love to hear you let me know if you think I missed or if you'd like to change something up. I will definitely say it's a tight huddle in terms of tier 2 and 3 usually. With the decks, because there is so many, it's not as spaced out always as well. But with that really concludes today's episode, my friends. We have talked about the tier list, or what it is. We took a look at the tier list. We talked about a lot of key observations, and additionally, we talked about those 5 top decks here, because 40 was just going to take way too long, and the information is available down below, and that's going to do it much more justice than I will in a 30-second to 2-minute overview here for you. Lastly, again, Planeswalkers, happy Thanksgiving Day's Eve. I really, really hope you stay safe, enjoy your time, reflect, be thankful. Again, I am thankful for your support, as I always say. Please feel free to subscribe to the channel down over there. Additionally, like the video if you like it. You can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Twitch, stay up to date on content like this and daily drops. And additionally, in the description, all the information that you need in regards to the episode, decks, and then how to support the channel additionally. So thank you, Planeswalkers. Maybe we'll see you in the Discord channel soon. And as always, enjoy your Thanksgiving Day's Eve. And maybe some of you are getting some turkey early. I don't know. But at least in the U.S. And then for those of you around the world that do also observe, at a minimum, I think it's always good to reflect and say thank you for the path that you walk and everything else in your life. Stay safe, Planeswalkers. It is a crazy world out there, unprecedented times. We're in this together. I like I said, I'm very thankful. Appreciate your support. We will see you again soon. Stay in tune. Mythras out, and until next time, stay safe. All right, take care.